So today I want to talk about taxis, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Our hearts beat to the city streets. We began to feel the fire. We rise like tall buildings as the chemicals they take us high.
So anyway, there's one thing that comes up a lot. I hear different YouTubers advising people to just take Grab or Bolt, depending on where they're at. And, that by doing so, you're going to avoid any hassles, etc. And it's cheaper. I hear that a lot. But reality is that it's not cheaper. So when you call Grab in the Philippines, it's sometimes I do use Grab. If you're going to have the taxi pick you up at your hotel or condo or residence, and you're going to be traveling, quite a long ways, then if you use Grab, you can go on the Grab app, you can check the price, and sometimes if it's a busy time of day, the Grab prices can just be sky high because they use the surge pricing just like they do in the US for Lyft or Uber, So anyway, you can go on there. If you do use Grab, my suggestion is go ahead and use the standard Grab, because you have a choice. You can use the standard, or you can use the taxi, or you can use the sedan, like 6 passengers, I think it is. But what I have found is that the private owners that have their own cars on Grab, those cars tend to be much nicer, than the taxi Grabs. A lot of the taxi Grabs, I'm going to say half of them at least, the air conditioners don't work. You're going to be out here, driving around in 100-degree heat. Well, maybe not 100 degrees, but it's pretty darn hot and humid sometimes. And so if if you're traveling a long ways, even if it's only 30 minutes, if you're stuck in traffic, you really appreciate having that air conditioning that's actually working good. So for that reason, when I do use Grab, then, like I mentioned, I'll use the standard Grab, and that's somebody with their own car, and the air conditioners work. Yeah, every time. I've never been in one where it wasn't working well. So whereas if you use a taxi, it's the luck of the draw, and the luck's not in your favor most of the time. That's been my experience. Okay, so anyway, let's say you're at a mall and you need to get a taxi. Now, one thing that I've run into, actually several times, you hop in the taxi, and now if the taxi has their meter on, which they should, usually that meter is set at, I think it's 40 pesos, at the start. So anyway, make sure that, they're using their meter, that it's set to, that they're using it basically. If they are, fine, fantastic. Away you go, and you'll be on your way. But if they don't, and I ran into this yesterday. I've had it happen several times. You get in the car, and then the taxi driver says, "Is it okay if I use my Grab?" And so the answer to that really should be no. Because if you were to call Grab, the Grab rate is actually going to cost you more money, so yeah, so you want to be aware of this. If they ask you, is it okay if we use the Grab, then you just need to speak up and say no, and if they argue about it, then just say, I'm going to take another cab, get out of the cab, and get a different cab or taxi. It really seems to be a, kind of a common problem. At least it's happened several times recently to me. So, so yesterday, this situation came up. Got in the car, started driving down the road. Is it okay if I use the Grab? I said no. And I said if I wanted to pay more, I would have taken the black. So that's the other alternative, is you can take a black taxi basically, or black Grab. You'll know it because it's usually an SUV and it's black. So if you take those, it's going to cost you more money. And but every one of those that I've been in has been really nice. The drivers are friendly. I'm assuming it's because they're making more money. And the air conditioning in those, every time they've worked really, really well. So if you don't mind spending, maybe 50 to 100 pesos more, take the black. For me, it's like every time I do, I'm glad that I did. But if you're watching every cent or every peso that you spend, well then, that it's up to you. But, the taxis are going to be cheaper if they're actually using their meter. But so back to the story of yesterday, the guy said, Grab, is it okay to use Grab? And so he was irritated, when he was told no. And he continued to drive. He drove recklessly in my eyes. At one point, he was driving really, really fast. And, then at the end of the ride, I asked him how much. It was like 329 pesos. And I went to give him a 500. And then he said, I said, just go ahead and give me back 150. He says, oh, I only have 50 change. Well, this guy was trying to get extra money the whole trip, from the very beginning. So I had the 350. I took the 500. I said, let me have that back. So I gave him 350. The bill was 329, and it was just a nerve-wracking experience. The guy drove really fast. He was irritated to no end because because I didn't agree to pay the extra money. So anyway, it's something to really be aware of, because it seems like it happens more and more. And and I understand these taxi drivers and that, they're not making a lot of money. So most of them, are really good. The majority of them are really good. They're friendly, they're helpful, and they don't try to rip you off. But if you get somebody, that rips you off, it makes the other drivers look bad. Same thing applies in the U.S. Or wherever you're from, probably. Anyway, it's something to be aware of. If you use a taxi and they use a meter, it's going to be cheaper than if you use Grab. So something to keep in mind. And yeah, just don't get screwed, you know, on your taxi. Yeah. And if they're nice and friendly, then, you know, tip them, you know, make them feel appreciated. Yeah. You know, so I always do that. You know, if they're nice and they get me there safely, yeah, man, I'm grateful, you know, because traffic in the Philippines is no joke. Yeah. Anyway, hey, thanks so much. Have a good day. Bye.